Alright. Hey, review family, keep it high, keep it tight. My name is Jay Morris, the review guy, reviewing music for the love of music, and I'm back again to bring you another video. And in this one, I'm going to be covering the new Fluids record entitled Not Dark Yet. This is the third full-length studio record from the Phoenix, Arizona brutal death metal and grindcore, deathgrind, goregrind, whatever you want to call them band, Fluids, which since 2018 in their formation have been kicking it in the underground, kicking up massive waves with EPs and splits and singles and 2 full lengths, which built up a considerable amount of acclaim around them. Them being on the Maggot Stomp roster only bolstered that, considering a lot of people keep their eyes on that label for some very brutalized takes on genres we know and have come to love. This was released back in June, but it was one that I wanted to give my quick thoughts on because I think this is probably one of my most disappointing releases this year thus far. And the reasoning behind that's kind of unfortunate. This is a 36-minute record, and off of their 2 full-length records, I really enjoyed this band for just how slurpy and soupy and lo-fi it felt. It had a bassy production to it, but it never really felt anything short of organic. Did it have a lot of Carcass worship and specifically Mortician worship? Absolutely, which the latter of which, the Mortician worship, carries over to this record probably more so than any material that they've released thus far. And even though they have worn their influences on their sleeve, Fluids has still been able to kick up a ruckus with some really high-octane goregrind music with a lot of death metal semblances, so close that it could be considered Deathgrind. On this new release, though, they leave behind so much of the things that I think made them so organic and so fluid, pun completely unintended. The percussive work sounds completely mechanical, completely sapped of life. It is borderline on like a cyber grind band or just a grind band with percussion that is just so over the top on the mechanical edge that it makes it feel like a husk. I understand that they wanted to make this a very distorted, thick, dense sounding record, but the end result of it was a record that just felt like it was so mundane, lackadaisical, and run-of-the-mill that there is so little to really extrapolate from this. And the things that really made them set themselves apart, such as how good the vocals were on their first 2 full lengths, have completely went by the wayside. The vocals here are just so fucking boring. Staying in the one same range, never really up in the ante, never swelling anything, not doing anything but just staying in the low guttural register and timbre. And when you add in the fact that while the guitar work does have a thick layering atmosphere to it, it gets drowned out by everything else because they just decide to bury the entire mix under just this thick layer of fog. It's crusted up, and not necessarily in the good way, because any bit of musicality or technicality or just freakishness that Fluids was going for in the past has completely been just cemented this whole layer of miasma. While Fluids has never necessarily been the most cutting edge band in terms of brutal music or grind music, they at least had enough of that buff exterior to where when you listen to it, the intensity, the vigor made things feel vile and repulsive. But to this effect, I think they tried way too hard to get what they already had. I think that they were trying to set the bar higher for themselves when they didn't necessarily need to. This mix is loud, it is abrasive, it's bangs and clangs, and for extreme music and brutal music, those things are usually staples, they are fine, but the way they come across here is just ear-grating. It's a slog, and I'm not gonna say that Fluids necessarily did anything bad here musically, it's that it is so hectic and so bassy and just so thick. And not in the good way. They still managed to pile on the guts, to pile on the entrails, and throughout this runtime, a lot of the slower sections are things that I've heard a lot of people sort of take away from or demean, when in reality, I think that that layer of sort of nuance to their sound is something I'd like to see done more. The fact that they can tone it down, that they can make something slow down, feel a bit more chunky, it really does add this cool little flavor. But once again, the issue is the mix sells any bit of that potential short, that even if you're getting to focus on one of these slower, chuggier sections that feel very old school death metal inspired as opposed to just grind or gore grind or whatever you want to call it, it just gets drowned out because everything is so inaudible and so distorted that the musicality gets completely swept aside, and in its place is just loudness. I get that metal music has sort of a loudness war, especially now in certain genres, but unfortunately I didn't think Fluids was gonna fall prey to that. I think that if you want something that is very loud, check it out, but I think Fluids, if you want to get into them, you should check out one of their first 2 records. They're amazing, they're really good, and they kept me really excited considering how prolific they were, so maybe this is just them missing the mark a bit. But in my personal opinion, Not Dark Yet remains to be the weakest thing in their discography up until this point, and one of the most disappointing records that I've heard this entire year. I'm going to be giving this album a 3 out of 10. And that is a wrap. Have you heard this new Fluids record, Not Dark Yet? If you have, let me know in the comment section below what you thought about it. I would love to discuss this record with you. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is, my name is Jay Morris, the Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.